Welcome everyone to this conversation about blockchain and anti-corruption. I'm Diana. I run research and sustainability with GBBC. And this conversation is about a very important topic where we have estimates of $50 trillion that reside in the hidden economy. That's made up of profits from illicit industries, profits from corruption, and tax evasion across the board. That's a ton of money if you think about it. And estimates from the UN Secretary General at the same time have shown that it only takes an estimate of 5 to 7 trillion a year leading up to 2030 to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. So when you compare that to the hidden economy, that's a lot. So hopefully maybe we can tap into that using blockchain. But mostly I'm joined today by two fantastic panelists from The Digital Economist, Navroop Sadev and Satya Das. So I'll let you two introduce yourselves.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Diana. I love what you said in terms of the framing of the session. And I think just to add to that, before I introduce myself, I'd like to say that this is a continuation of the work that is ongoing, right? And Sandra, Diana, part of this work group, Tech for Transparency, we had the chance to present that work at the International Anti-Corruption Conference last month. So Davos is a series of activations and bringing awareness to it and how the technology we are all very excited about can finally make that happen, right? So with that, my name is Navroop Sadev. I'm the founder CEO of The Digital Economist. We are based in Washington, D.C. We call ourselves an impact platform. We're a think and do tank. And we focus on Web3, sustainability and inclusion and equity, and really the intersectionality of all of these. And so the work on transparency has a key role to play. As you can imagine, not only does it impact the economy and our ambitions around sustainability, but also women, right? And all of those related factors that are key when it comes to the development goals that we are focused on to build a human-centered world economy. So with that, I'll hand over to Satya.
Thank you, Navroop and Diana. My name is Satya Das. I'm Managing Director of Sustainability and Governance at The Digital Economist, and I also head our Center of Excellence on Human-Centered Global Economy. As part of that, we've really launched this amazing experiment in uniting anti-corruption activists with data scientists and digital scientists to really find actionable solutions to the crises consuming our planet. And Diana is actually part of our Tech for Transparency work group. And in a naked recruitment pitch, we need lots of different people and different abilities to join forces to really make a difference and a dent. And we're really hoping that we launched this initiative at the International Anti-Corruption Conference in Washington, D.C. So in coming from D.C. to Davos in the space of a month, we're really hoping to keep the momentum going and hope that at least some of you will feel able to join us on the journey to a better world with better human and planetary outcomes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that introduction. So I'm going to start with Navroop. How do you define the hidden economy? What is it? What is it consist in? And what are the implications of the sheer size?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people think about the hidden economy in terms of criminals, right? Like the stuff when it comes to illegal industries and so on and so forth. But actually, surprisingly, the majority of it is avoided taxes, which is perfectly legal, the so-called tax planning. And that was one of the shocking things that we all learned and came to terms with. There's tax evasion, which is illegal. And of course, it's all sort of illicit money flows, there's corruption. But the larger part of it is tax avoidance, right? And we think about, it's probably happening in a developing country context or so on and so forth. But a lot of the players, a lot of the folks who are pulling the strings and a lot of the wealth where it ultimately ends up is in developed economies, particularly the US and UK, which are the two biggest privacy jurisdictions. So the problem is at home, right? And so when it comes to defining, Diana, to your point, the hidden economy, these are the factors we have to think about, right? Privacy jurisdictions and what they are enabling around the world, whether it's Panama or Wisconsin. You know, you have you know, this entire set of actors and an entire global apparatus. And I would highly recommend anybody reading Very Bad People. And we had the chance to meet the author and host him.
The book.
Yeah, Patrick Alley in DC. To really kind of dive into what that is like, and the sheer size of it is almost unimaginable, right? We couldn't raise $100 billion, you know, a year when it comes to achieving the SDGs, something that has been promised for a number of years, and this is a massive multiple of that.
So Satya, could you tell us more about the urgency of now with respect to the global problems we're facing?
Well, I think the urgency of the moment is clear to everyone who's at Davos, because we are here as a gathering of thought leaders and influencers and leaders of all spheres who really want to solve the existential crisis facing the planet. The existential crisis is the confluence of corruption, the climate emergency, and conflict. All three are corroding the world. All are based on short-termism. And the reason we launched Tech for Transparency is that the hidden economy is actually destroying the world by robbing it of the public resources needed to actually ensure a sustainable future for the planet. When you have a $50 trillion hidden economy that even at a modest tax rate of wealth harvesting would give you $500 billion a year, imagine how far that could go toward achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Everything the digital economist does is in support of the UN SDGs. Everything we do is to actually find an actionable path forward. And if we don't get it right now, if we don't get it right within the next 36 months, we are going to be left with the corroded hulk of a biosphere and the billionaires continuing to rule it over an ever-eroding world, a torn social fabric, gross inequity, and societal divisions that will manifest themselves in ways hitherto unforeseen.
Well, Navroop, could you tell us a little bit more about the role of blockchain, and especially when it comes to beneficial ownership? Why is that important?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I you know, really like the framing, Satya, that you offered, and really the risk and the cost of it. So we actually started with a hypothesis, right? Which is to say the work on anti-corruption has been ongoing for a number of years, number of decades, right? This is not a new problem. The ask for a open source, a global ledger, if you may, of beneficial ownership transparency, who ultimately owns what, is not new. At least 20 years of activism. So the hypothesis we started with is, can blockchain finally be the answer, right? And we sort of uncovered and learned along the way. And Diana, you brilliantly did the entire data journey. What is it going to take to aggregate this data in a privacy-preserving way, and then, you know, re-anonymize it as well? Because again, you know, when it comes to the legal side of things, there are laws that preserve some of that privacy considerations. So, you know, and we do feel and we are convinced that blockchain can finally be the answer. And I think one of the little stories I can share here, there were 2,100 people at IACC, International Anti-Corruption Conference in Washington, D.C. Last month. And they at one point asked how many technologists are in the room. So around 4 people got up, and hence the recruitment right call, because we need data scientists. We need people who can not just build another SaaS marketing platform for a large technology company in Silicon Valley, but can actually support the socioeconomic urgencies that we need to address right now. Right, it's a talent gap, the so-called explainability gap, and that's because they don't have anyone on the other side to explain the technology. So, you know, I think I see hope here.
Yes.
You're absolutely right, Navroop. And let me jump in and add to that with a real-life case. Let's talk about something as simple as royalty reporting by resource producers and extractors. Usually you'll have hundreds of people hiding compliance with how much actual resources are extracted and only a few people in government. If you actually applied blockchain to resource production, you would get an accurate, inviolable account of how much wealth is actually produced as opposed to what companies voluntarily report. Classic case of evaded taxes. So that's exactly how we can move forward with blockchain.
Absolutely. And also it's important to consider that digital identity is important for all of this to work, as we are using blockchain ideally to track and trace illicit activity or any suspicious activity. We also need the right technology to be able to make beneficial ownership available to the right people while safeguarding privacy at the same time. So one thing that we've discussed was the concept of the journey of data, of the digital identity of the individuals behind the activities. And I'm going to take it to Navroop. Could you expand a little bit on that, especially with respect to the steps of the data journey? We'll walk you through it. But one important step is data collection. At the first point of data collection, what are the challenges and the technology solutions when we talk about human gatekeepers as opposed to technology?
Yeah, so I mean, I think for this audience in particular, I'm probably not going to say anything new when it comes to digital identity, as well as what is needed. Of course, we all know about garbage in, garbage out. And so in order to ensure that that's correctly done, there's a number of steps. There's, of course, the legal side of things as well. There's KYC and all of those legal requirements, particularly when it comes to institutional assets and wealth, right? But I think the larger thing that we're struggling with is, okay, so say somebody incorporates a company in Panama, buys a company in London that buys a yacht for $300 million, which is from a crypto, crowd in some part of the world. Like, how do we trace that? So sharing that data, and we've done a bunch of work on data consortiums at MIT, the work Sandy Pentland and the rest of us in his lab have been working on, and how can data foster trust, right? And what does that equation look like, right? And Diana, maybe you're welcome to kind of go through the data journey, but I mean, one of the things is we have the brochures or the papers here. There's a QR code. If anyone's interested, please grab those, and they will take you straight to the paper. But the important thing here is that here's a potential framework for a solution, right? So we're looking, all of us, to collaborate with blockchain companies and actually implement some of these at country levels. And we've been engaging countries and launching the Africa Coalition completely in service of this initiative tomorrow, right, including heads of states there.
I like what you say about garbage in, garbage out. We have seen instances internationally where there's an entire shell company that is formed and the owner is registered as Mickey Mouse. And like, who would enter that, right? It's human beings participating in corrupt measures, potentially bribes, who knows? But through blockchain and the transparency and the ability of technology to triangulate and verify the data and provide an accurate level of data assurance for the next step in the data journey, which would be data sharing, is very important. And Satya, could you expand on the importance of that? Again, technology challenges and challenges that we face today and technology solutions with blockchain.
Well, the actual challenge really is to balance privacy with the requirement to share data to uncover corruption. So one of the things that we proposed is that if you have data sharing, and it's, first of all, it's not just data accuracy, but between all agencies that have governmental authority to access it, we have proposed a process in which you temporarily strip the anonymity from the data to reveal the beneficial owner, and then once it's passed through the law enforcement authority, you reapply the anonymity. So that once you do that, you can sort of balance privacy concerns with the necessity of knowing where these things should come from. Who knew that Mickey Mouse dealt in arms or trafficked humans or made their money in the drug trade? I mean, that's quite a journey for a tiny little cartoon mouse.
And just to add to that, I used to watch Mickey Mouse growing up, but now it's not the same anymore. So, for example, right, you fill your credit card number, instantly it tells you if the credit card number is not right. So the technology exists, but that thing is not done when it comes to incorporating an LLC or something. It's insane, and billions of dollars, trillions of dollars move around. While on the consumption side, on the consumer side, we have the legal requirements. But I mean, when it comes to that level of corruption, these people are over and beyond the social contract. We talk about the socioeconomics of development, technology serving that, but this is an entirely different category of players we're looking at. So I think the idea is to bring them into the legal system for starters. And the easiest way is to shine light on the financial flows, because human behavior is hard to change, and corruption over the past 50, 100 years, erstwhile colonies that now, have a few powerful players, and still a very poor population is not able to cope. And I think it's not going to happen unless we have technological interventions.
And to be really blunt about it, there's absolutely no way we can stop this money that's being robbed from the global south, that's being robbed from the future of humankind, unless we apply data science, unless we apply technology. It is not going to come through pure human scrutiny, because there are too many failings.
Exactly. So it's really important to have a sense of the human beings and the activity as well, and connecting that with data analytics. We've had an entire panel on AI-driven algorithms, basically, to detect patterns of illicit and suspicious activity. And then when we detect something suspicious that we want to investigate, it's important to have the right practices for data de-anonymization and data re-anonymization, like you mentioned, Satya. There's a tension sometimes between claims for privacy rights and the need to investigate specific bad actors. How can we deal with that through blockchain technology and a combination of emerging technologies?
No, very much so. And, as we go along on this journey, what we cannot lose sight of is that this is the money we urgently need to save the biosphere, to save a sustainable future that leaves no one behind. Because if we don't have that, I really don't know where we're heading with the confluence of these catastrophes the planet is going through right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the data points here, which perhaps most people, in this audience is aware of, is the rising inequality in the world, right? And I'm an economist by training, and we are at pre-World War I levels of inequality in the world. I mean, that's really something, right? And so the direction we're heading in, something has to change in order to alter that. And the climate agenda is an existential agenda. And again, the biggest indicator is the biodiversity loss, around 40%, the last numbers that came out, for that. So I think it's really all, of course, tied together. A lot of this money, by the way, it's worth mentioning, is through illegal resource extraction, right? And in parts of the world where the legal systems are not robust enough to protect those resources. And that happens, by the way, of course, in the United States and Europe as well. But, perhaps countries like Indonesia and others are a lot more susceptible to it. So there's a confluence there on the cost of it to the planet, to people, human rights violations that are that also happen as part of this. And then, of course, the illicit money flows around the world.
So as we call to the main calls to action, Satya
blockchain in every port.
Yeah,
that's what I was referring to. Go ahead, Satya.
Yeah, well, and that is blockchain in every port. It sounds like a bit of a cute cliche, but what we're really saying is that let's pick some low-hanging fruit. Let's have one example, one sector in which we can show how blockchain and data science can actually mitigate corruption. So if we have all international cargo manifests and all international cargo movements that are tracked by blockchain in every port and every supply chain and logistics transit point. A supply of arms for a conflict does not pass through as farm equipment, which is what it may be invoiced for. If we can actually have this into the global trading system, that will be a huge victory, which will not only stop a big source of corruption and a big source of flow of illicit goods, it will also demonstrate the power of technology and anti-corruption. So that's one of our major ones. The other sort of points that we're going at, we've already covered, the need to balance privacy with transparency, but more than anything else, we are really calling for an unprecedented collaboration between people and sectors that usually work in silos to really achieve something transformative in the fight against corruption by marrying it with technology.
Absolutely. And this obviously has implications on national security, particularly in procurement. There's a lot of trade-based money laundering and corruption where the prices of the goods are reflected differently at the point of shipment and at the point of collection, and a lot of corrupt fund flows occur. So this also obviously ties back to data quality and privacy protection, like we've said. So the last point for both Satya and Navroop would be, what's your vision for implementation of the Tech for Transparency initiative?
That's a great question. We're missing Don here, first of all, who leads the initiative. So I want to give a shout out to him. I couldn't make it due to personal reasons. I think in terms of the vision, within the next decade, I would say, we should have and that's actually a lot of time given the pace of technology, and you all seen open source AI and what have you. We should have a global shared ledger of beneficial ownership transparency where countries are talking to each other, right? And the privacy jurisdictions are not continuing to be sort of the black hole, right, of illicit money flows and trade. And by the way, it's relevant to mention here, just to put things in context, the shipping industry is perhaps the #1 source of a lot of this, right? And it is the world Silk Route right now. So it's huge if we can implement the blockchain in every port.
And my vision is really for data democracy. One of the big points that we've covered in the paper is the India Stack approach, which has resulted in 1.3 billion Indians now having a digital identity. Therefore, you can make direct transfers into people's bank accounts using their digital identity, which cuts down on corruption. Also, India is pioneering a central bank digital currency. It's since November 1st, it's been in beta stage in 4 cities. And once again, the digital rupee becomes a powerful anti-corruption tool because you can track the life cycle of it. However, on the other hand, it also raises privacy concerns that is government inappropriately gathering transactional data to
surveillance.
To pursue a surveillance state. So again, the balance needs to come in. But this democratization of data, the ability to leapfrog from a situation of inequity to a future that promises a more balanced life for all, is really going to be quite essential. And without technology, we're not going to achieve it.
Thank you so much to both of you. It is
I want to hear your vision too, Diana.
Yeah, well, like you say, the example of the India Stack is only one that many jurisdictions around the world can learn from. And we know that India is taking the presidency of G20 moving forward. We'll see what comes out of that. And it's very important to get stakeholders aligned and to foster collaboration and dialogue in a forum like this. So thank you to both of you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Diana, and Sandra, who's also part of the group and community here. Yeah, please
and I just want to say thank you to GBBC, because without your partnership and without your collaboration, we wouldn't have gotten Tech for Transparency off the ground. And we're just absolutely delighted to be working with you, to be working with this community, and let's move forward.
Thank you, everyone.